Welcome to the next episode of the Teacher Zone with Chris and Tyler. Chris Bates, how are you? Can you please introduce our guest?
So I'm excellent, and I just want to say we are so grateful to have Robby Schechter on from Musical Life Denver. And Robby, you aren't at your office, you aren't at your school, and you're also not at home. Where are you? We're so grateful, by the way, that you're healthy and good, but you're not in the normal place. You're somewhere very different. Where are you right now?
I am at a skilled nursing facility, aka a nursing home.
And if you're watching this,
are you training to become a nurse, or what are you doing there? Like, how did you get there?
I am convalescing in room 127, waiting for my bones to heal for another 3 weeks so I can start acute inpatient rehab and heal from a motorcycle accident that happened on the 30th of April.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, Robby, hold up your arms right now.
Yeah, in all seriousness, folks,
my gosh,
we knew all about this, and we are so grateful that he's even here on planet Earth right now. So, we've all been through scary stuff, but Robby's got some other things that happened that he's going to talk about today. And Chris, I want you to start all this. This is
segue
cool.
in. So today's topic is not about convalescent homes.
No. And how to start a convalescent home, how to grow it. No, this has nothing to do with that.
I actually know some about that, so maybe we can do that for those that care at another time.
Yeah, but, email us if that's what you want. We're here to please.
So it's actually a great investment. In fact, in Denver, there's quite a few of them, which is where you're at. But the reason we wanted to get together so quickly is that Tyler and I both talked to Robby after this happened, and it's a very scary moment in life. But Robby, you had kind of an epiphany, which really made us go, oh my gosh, let's jump on a podcast. And it was about delegation. So today's topic is going to be about delegating. And Robby, go ahead and take the floor for a bit and tell us what happened and tell us why this was important to your delegation. Tyler, what's up?
Now, this is all I got to say first. We got to open with how Chris and I even found out about this. So I am loading. When was this, Robby? What day was this? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, the accident was the 30th. I reached out probably the first week of May.
Okay, so first week of May, I am for the first time putting a livestock trailer onto my truck and loading horses to go help work cows and move cows with horses. It was a big day for the Mara family. We've never done anything like it. And I get a call and I'm like, Robby, what's up, man? It's Sunday. Like, it's the first thing I said. Is this an emergency? And my head was like, it has to be. Why? He didn't forget what day it was. And he said, Tyler, I have just been in I just broke both arms and my collarbone in a motorcycle accident. And my music school, Musical Life Denver's big concert, first one since the pandemic happened, is going down in like 4 days. And I was like, God, and I'm literally, there's livestock attached to stuff and I'm like, and this is Chris, this is where we'll do a podcast on partnerships one day, because thank God you're my partner, because I literally had to send him to Chris. So then you called Chris, I'm guessing right after that. Is that how it went down?
Within a day or two, we connected.
Okay, got it. So I just want everybody in the audience to know that was the initial phase into reality for our side of it, but little to be known by us. Robby had already been in the thick of it. So Robby, back to what Chris said, start to explain what went down.
All right, well, I guess I'll try to make it quick. I'll start with the accident and then what I had to do after that. So April 30th, riding my motorcycle in the mountain canyons like I always do to relax, sunny day. And I coming around a curve and I'm wearing all my gear, and there's this car doing an illegal U-turn in the middle of a curve. So it was a blind spot and there was no shoulders on the road. It was a construction zone. And so I see this obstacle appear and I'm like, okay, can I evade? No shoulders. I can go into the canyon wall, 1,000-foot high sheer rock wall. I can go off a cliff or I can hit my brakes and basically run to the car. And so that took me a minute or two to make, or a second or two, it felt like an eternity. So I apply my brakes. I open my eyes and I'm lying on the ground. I'm like, was that a dream? I'm like, no. And instantly someone's helping me. And very quickly, it's like, that happened. I'm now on the ground. I don't know where I am. I must have hit the car. I found out later on I hit the car and flew 8 feet in front of the car. I have no memory of the impact, but so they, the paramedics thankfully were there within 5 minutes. I was in shock. By the time I got in the paramedics, the pain kicked in. They gave me drugs. They got me back to the hospital.
Right.
And then, so it was, I wrecked my arms, my shoulders, my wrists, everything. Just my arms are titanium scaffolding. They did an operation that night, let me rest. And it wasn't my collarbone, it was actually my pelvis. So front and back of the pelvis was broken, and other injuries I'm not going to mention on the podcast.
So you couldn't stand.
That's worse. That is 100,000 times worse than.
Right. That was the one where they were worried about bleeding. So then I had a second surgery for that. So, this process of surgery, rest, about 4 or 5 days in, I was totally, I'm just in a bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything, eat, drink, go to the bathroom. I didn't eat for like 5 or 6 days, just sipping water. My mom came out. I was pretty, I was helpless. Well, so it was like 1 week away. And so I call, I don't know what I'm going to do. The show must go on, right? So I call you guys.
So real quick, okay, so for a lot of you out there with whatever type of lesson business you have, you have a big showcase, a performance, in this case, a concert. And so, you planned for it. Everybody's excited. But this is a really tragic life moment. And again, I want to reiterate, Robby, both Tyler and I, as we told you before this, we're so grateful you're okay, man. As far as at least your brain and yourself, and that you're here with us. And
well, it's also very impressive that you had tools in your tool belt, and through the thick of it, you were like, okay, I need to solve this. And some people, they don't have tools, and they're done. They're sitting there, they have no help, or they're finding the help for the first time ever, whatever that means.
So out of curiosity, did you consider canceling the show?
No, never crossed my mind. The show must go on.
Right.
I don't have a family. I'm 31. I don't have a family. I'm lucky as all hell. I have my mom flew from St. Louis to be there with me to help with the medical side. And so I was able, my only problem was the concert. Another thing is I've been with Teacher Zone, 3 years now? So we have all the office stuff is really streamlined. So it's just a matter of time doing it. We have, checklists for our teachers to do things on Teacher Zone, and we have a couple other spreadsheets. But so I was already on the tools, right? We already had the Zoom, Teacher Zone, Trello, Active Campaign. I was already at that point, teachers as employees, payroll company. So if I didn't have all that in line, it would have canceled. But since business was going to run as usual, I got in the accident, and 100 payments were automatically done the next day, and I didn't have to worry about a damn thing since they're on auto pay. So
it's funny because the biggest part with delegation is we think we need to keep inflating ourselves, right? It's like, oh, I'll just keep taking on every possible thing, and what you're actually doing is minimizing your impact, and you're making it harder on your staff, and you're making it harder on the students, and you're actually starting to take away from folks. The longer you wait to have systems, the longer you wait to delegate. So the fact that you already had, it did the hard work, because it's not easy. Let's pretend. Let's not pretend getting systems and automations in your business is simple. It takes a desire to say, you know what, enough's enough. I need to have systems, and I'm going to go through the short-term pain to implement systems so that I can enjoy the long-term benefit of things like not having to be there. So continue.
I don't know if you can enjoy this one.
No, you won't.
It's nice to know.
The fact that you would still have
There's more enjoyable versions of this, Robby. I'm just going to say, without catastrophic accidents and internal bleeding. So hopefully your next venture into life is not as tragic and down in Costa Rica where you like to be in the sun and have fun. Right?
Well, and you said something that made us really want to do this podcast, and you said the last piece to your automation and systems was starting to delegate this aspect of the business. And you were hesitant because you love doing it and you've always been so involved, and it's how you got started in the business. So, naturally, it's the last thing we want to give up, because you love doing it, number one, but number two, also, I suspect some of our identity is tied up in what we love and what we love about our business. And so it's really hard to give that up. It feels like you're giving yourself up. So you said to me on our call, Chris, it took a damn accident for me to delegate. And I'm like, wow, that is so heavy, because that is such an insane metaphor for all of us. I still struggle to this day. I've been preaching delegation for 15 plus years. I still struggle every day with it. So Robby, take the floor, brother.
Yeah. So, a couple points there. Yeah, let me keep going down the timeline, then I'll get to the funny, blessing in disguise moments. So, yeah, shows coming up. So first off, there was a Teacher's Own podcast about 2 years ago I listened to, and I remember where I was. I was on a flight because I listened to it twice in a row, and that's where he talked about systems and delegating. And Tyler goes into this story about, oh man, I'm laying in bed, the first concert that I wasn't doing, and the staff packed up the U-Haul, and I'm just anxiety ridden in bed, like, just didn't know what to do with myself, and the show was going to go on, and it ended up being the best show ever. Well, so that was me now. So we're 5 days out, and I'm used to doing it all. I am.
Hey, I'm still insulted that it was the best show ever and the first one I wasn't at.
Oh, see,
anyways, like, no, I'm just kidding.
No, you're not. It was the happiest moment of your life. Okay, so anyway, same with me. So I have to now I have a drum teacher who's been doing more and more office work, and after this whole thing, he's going to be my general manager, and we're going to we'll get there. So I'm having meetings with the staff. We have to do this. So now I'm forced to plan on paper with documents and folders in grueling detail everything that's going to happen, from the gear to the day of, who's going to MC, notes about specific students, like all the things that I just did. I've been doing for 5 years that I shouldn't have been, and it was stupid, and I winged it.
Was it all in your head, and you had to finally dump it into Trello or Google Docs or whatever?
And I did some Google Sheets, some operations manual type stuff. So we had a folder for the concert on Google Drives. Here's our concert. Here's the packing list. Here's the tech list. Here's my guitar teacher needs to go to my house to pick up the Mac Mini that I bought so that we could multi-track and get my Mac Mini set up with a monitor, and he's responsible for making sure this runs. And this teacher needs to liaison. This one needs to do merch, and basically every facet I had to plan out. And then, so timeline, like just everything, responsibilities, timeline, procedures, tech procedures, MC notes, everything you can imagine. So this is all done. So the show's Friday, right? And we sent out a message to the whole school, like, hey, I'm in the hospital, but show will go on. We're all here for each other, yada, yada. And so here comes Friday, and we're going to have a debriefing. I give my staff and all the volunteers 2 hours to pack up. 30 minutes into their 2 hour allotted time, they say, Robby, we're done. We're just hanging at the studio. I said, all right, here's my credit card, order a pizza, and just hang. And I say, all right, guys, here's my debriefing. And I sit there, I go, I don't know what to say. There's nothing else to say. What am I going to do? Reiterate what I've already said? Everyone knows what they need to do. Everyone's got their stuff printed out. Nick, you got this. Calvin, you got this. And I was just I was like, I don't know what to say, but thank you. I'm like grateful. I'm like emotional. Like I'm stunned. Sorry, not a good time, guys. Come back. I'm like, I'm totally stunned, blah, blah, blah. And I'm grateful. I love you guys, and you guys got this. And I'll tell you what, I am so exhausted from working 10, 12-hour days in a hospital. My phone's available for an emergency, but try to not call. Try to do everything yourselves. If a student texts, I'm not going to respond. I'm going to kind of turn off my phone. And I went to sleep.
Was that hard? Was that hard for you to say that?
No, it wasn't, because after the planning and seeing how amazing people were and how the support I had done it. And really, I was so tired. My body said, screw this. So there was like 2 p.m. I fielded one more call. I fell asleep. I woke up at 9:30 p.m. So I slept straight from 2 to 9:30. And I'm like, the show's going to end at 10. So I get
You slept through. Wait, you were asleep.
That's delegation.
You were asleep during the show, except for the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, because my body had done everything. And plus, obviously, I'm on painkillers and stuff. And
Right.
so there's no anxiety. There's nothing. There's no feelings. And my body was just like, all right, dude, you did everything. You knocked it out. Of course, I'm emotional. I'm like, I called my mom. I'm like crying. I'm like, I don't know how to feel. Like, I'm proud. Like, I finally like dotted my T's and crossed my I's. I didn't do the bare minimum. I'm used to skating by and improvising because I'm a musician. How do I allow myself to be proud and not feel like I'm so used to feeling like I could have done better? It was the weirdest feeling. Plus, I've been working with these people personally since February. This is the first show we've done since August. We did a show. Our show in December got canceled. We had, that was like a hero story. Our neighbors came and had the right square footage, and we made videos in a decor shop. Like, it's been the year of curveballs, and
yes.
I want to be there.
So if you're listening to this later on, because I don't know when someone's listening to this, we just went through COVID, so you'll remember that year.
Right. Yeah, so that's the year he's talking about, and this is May 2021 right now. So all of this timeline is very colorful, to say the least. Robby, I got to chime in really quick, and then I want you to finish up. I am so proud of you, because Chris came in when we partnered up, and my wife is going through some heavy brain surgery stuff that was flipped our lives upside down when my daughter was 2 weeks old. And it was the same day that was the day I quit teaching. That was year 5. That was the thing where I had my last 11 students or something. And that was the end. Never taught since. It was like, even I was holding on till the last second and hadn't done it until some catastrophe happened. And thank God Chris was there and whatever. So first of all, I want to say I relate to that. Number 2, you practiced extreme ownership. I'm getting choked up, because what you did to trust your fire teams, your team, because you identified that they were amazing. And the only reason they weren't all the way amazing is because you were standing in your own way and siloing with all the freaking nuclear codes and everything by yourself. You had no one had any access to the life strings of the business. You had them all in a box. And then one day you just gave them the box. Now you had to write a bunch of stuff down, put it together. But dude, kudos. That process is insane. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Bravo. It's blowing us away that not only did you do it, but you did A+, knock it out of the park, home run. Man, that's amazing. And the fact that you slept is actually very telling, like you said, because it shows that you were you got it all off. And now your shoulders, it was like that weight was lifted off your shoulders, and your body probably had a lot of tension, because you'd been stressed from the accident about what you had to take care of. So I would imagine that was all very related. I want to say, I've been saying for years that humans, we all fight change, and we only change in trauma.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean getting in a horrible accident, right? But sometimes it, like you said with Melissa Tyler, or with this accident, or sometimes it's a different kind of life trauma or change in your life. Either way, we're so glad that you did it, but we also want everybody to use this as a metaphor, because you can push yourself to delegate. You could push yourself to get out of your own way and not require something this traumatic. You can have that
perfect point.
moment.
How about just pretend? Just pretend you got in an accident. Call your staff, be like, bro, I'm in an accident. No, don't come visit me. It's COVID, can't come in. And then go through everything, and then surprise, I wasn't in an accident, but you guys did great. Now, that's probably not a good idea. But
so what would you that's actually there's
no difference in doing what Robby did without a motorcycle accident, if that's what you really want. And see, Robby didn't know that that's what he wanted yet. Did you? Robby, describe that. Go back a little bit. Where was your head? Did you want the freedom of this delegation? And you don't even know what this means yet because you're still in a home right now waiting to get back on your feet. So when you're back on your feet, and now you can choose whether you're going to teach again or not, or build the business in a different direction. Is this what you wanted to do eventually and you got here faster, or did you not want to be here yet?
No, I've wanted to be here since I heard your podcast 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, wait, systems, that's a thing, writing things down, checklists. But I'm doing it all on my own. I don't have Chris, who's got all this experience with business and delegation. I just got a couple, podcasts, Danny Thompson, Dave Simon, a couple of the podcasts that folks are aware of. And, I tried multiple times. I mean, I tried hiring this girl to admin and she wasn't the right fit. And then I was like, gosh, that was tough. And then I hired another person who I thought, was going to be great. And then COVID hit and that ruined that. So I've had what I've called my experiments with delegation.
Okay.
And I had two that kind of were not traumatic, but was like, screw this. It's just gonna be easier.
Yeah, it wasn't like a home run where you're just like, oh, great. It wasn't instant. This was a process.
No, it was trying. Okay, you're not the right fit. Trying. You could have been the right fit. COVID happened. Everything changed. I don't know what's going on. Now, I got to stay lean. My brother's my accountant. He's a hard worker. He works 18-hour days. He's like, just do it all yourself, bro. Just do it all yourself. Just teach more. Save money. And I'm like, well, you're not okay, so I'll try to stay lean. I don't want to be lazy, but it was that balance of it was getting in my way, but yeah, so I've tried. This has been something I deep down wanted, and how to get out of coaching the bands. I got out of teaching privately a year and a half ago. I said, no more private students.
Okay.
But this idea in my head, I have to coach, people love how I coach and no one can do it the way I can. And I tried to delegate that. I've tried to have other people do that, and I didn't know how to train, and it's the extreme ownership. I bring them in, I give them a week of training, and then I just they suck, and I end up taking it back over, and they're good people, and it's just a matter of mindset and experience and learning, I need to change my mindset. I can't look at my staff as problems. I have to be there for them and get excited. Well, I asked Chris, I said, how do you stay excited about, challenges? But now my whole CPU in my brain goes into how can I help you as a teacher? I save my positivity for supporting teachers now. And huge. I can tell now when I talk to a business owner within 2 seconds if they're a business owner or they just work for themselves. Because if they go, oh, employees, I'm like, I don't need that energy. I'm like, yay, employees. Oh, customers. I'm like, yay. Obviously I get mad at petty things and I have a bad attitude sometimes. But then I don't have that around the staff. And it took me 3 years to find a good staff. 3 fucking years.
I don't know if you dealt with this, but I know I struggle with the word leader. And it only in the last several years, and you don't kid yourself, even though I have some experience in the past, it's something Tyler and I every day. I'm so grateful for Tyler kicking me in the butt and keeping me on it. And I mean, we all need each other. And the one thing though that I struggle with is that word, because what does leader mean, right? It actually means to lead. It actually means to provide the leadership that it takes. It doesn't mean to do. And that transition from doing to actually leading is a big difference, because basically, you can go from being a supersized individual where, you're like, I'm Superman and I do 500 things. Like you said, was it your brother or brother-in-law, the accountant?
Yeah, my brother.
Yeah, it's that's the old kind of stoic mentality of I don't just work, I work 27 hours a day. It's really, why is that something to brag about? And so the modern thing really in leading is that if we're not leading, then we're almost stealing the opportunity away from our staff to actually do what they're great at and do their superpowers and actually be appreciated for their special qualities and their abilities. It's we're trying to steal the spotlight in every task. And I know we don't see it that way. We think we're just trying to help, but ultimately I think that's what it's doing. Yeah, Ty.
Chris, you're exactly right. And then on the flip side, sometimes we're so in the thick of it. Sometimes you just got to back up and go, well, every great entity that's ever been has had leadership. Anybody that's ever gone from rubble to Amazon or Elon or whatever, someone had to get out and lead. And they couldn't. At some point, I can imagine them all. I think, Chris, you showed me an old picture of Bezos in his office at Amazon like a million years ago, and it looked like ours, just crap everywhere and a tiny room. Well, we all are there, but sometimes you got to fly 1,000 feet up and go, okay, so how did those big dogs happen? Like, for instance, Phoenix Project, that book we read, Chris, it was a great story about bottlenecks and unplanned work, and I just needed to see the hustle and bustle of a big Fortune 500 company failing. You know what I mean? When they're not supposed to be failing. And it took me a second, and then it goes, okay, so wait a second. They had the same problems at a Fortune 500 company with 38,000 employees that my 11 employees had? Like, no different when the chaos was at Los Rios Rock School or Teacher Zone or whatever. There's no difference. The bottlenecks, the unplanned work, it's all the same, except leadership has to happen.
Yeah, there's actually something that they found out when it comes to potting up, and it's really interesting. But what's it called, the mathematical principle, Robby, with the shell, like the conch shell? It's the
Fibonacci sequence.
Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence, oddly enough, has been shown to be the right number for kind of group pods. And once you get over a certain number, so what it is like, there's 5, and then because 2 plus 3 is 5, and then 4 plus 3 is 7, and then so 7 is a really good number, for instance. And then what comes after that? It would be 5 plus 4, so 9. And then it would be 6 plus 5, so 11. So in other words, like you said, Tyler, 11, 9, 7. It's actually been proven that in our staff, so even if you have 30,000 employees, you should still have teams that are smaller. So leadership at a super high level, I imagine, and I don't have any idea what Bezos goes through or those guys, but they're like basically leading a country or a small country.
Well, they're just delegating, Chris. They're doing the exact same thing, except they've got 3 pods of CEOs or 7 pods of CEOs.
And then those leadership pods then have pods underneath them, and then they have. So it's like once you start the delegate, go ahead.
Can I interject? I wanted to tell you this because we talked about leader. I never thought of myself as a leader. I bought this book last winter called How to Be a Great Boss by Gino Wickman, who's the person who also wrote the book Traction that I've heard I have it on my
desk. I'm reading that now. Yeah.
So How to Be a Great Boss, right? And there's a test you take halfway through on how to be a great boss. And I remember being with my mother because I visited her in St. Louis. I'm taking this. I said, Mom, apparently I am like I am the worst boss. I scored like a 0 on this test. And I'm like, should I quit? Should I quit? And I had a new employee thank me for being, he was like, there's another way of saying it, a great boss. And that was like the biggest compliment because I have a new employee but I have like lots of new employees now with this prep. And that's just a crazy thing. I mean, I literally got a book, How to Be a Good Boss.
So what were the elements in that book that you at that time made you a bad boss? Like, what are some of the things?
It was like 27 metrics, and I failed every metric. It was like, I think about a metric, like ability to delegate, ability to, look at the good in people, ability to coach, ability to, manage the work you delegate, seeing solutions to problems. Like, I was honest with myself, and it was like, if you're unsure, it's like it's either a 1 or a 0, and if you're unsure, it's a 0. So I just feel like I have none of these qualities. I'm like just not like. And my mom's like, we're gonna stop. I stopped the book halfway through. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna quit my business if I keep reading this book. So
yeah. Well, the first step is admitting you have a problem, right?
Right.
It's funny. I years ago. So there's 2 types. Tyler and I learned recently in a coaching group we're in. We learned recently about the term, transactional leader versus transformational leader. And a transactional leader is your typical like old school boss that we all imagine. It's that like, do this and do it like this, and then I'll check up and make sure you're doing it. And it's like you're just everything is like I'm telling you. It's a transaction. It's like transactional leadership is basically you still in charge. You're still
right.
You've
and
delegated.
your employee, they're there waiting for that to happen. So it's very reaction.
It's not true delegation because it still requires you to sort of, in other words, the staff member doesn't feel like they have the freedom to truly act. They're waiting for your approval before they finish that project. And so transformational leadership, on the other hand, is about truly empowering our teams to be able to feel and own, like you say, Tyler, with Jocko's book, Extreme Ownership, to be able to have extreme ownership in their work. Also enjoy it more when you own it. So we're taking that away when we're not transformational leaders. And so this is probably 15 years ago or 12 years ago or something. I'm in a meeting with like 10 other business owners, and I'll never forget the look on everyone's face, because I was like, I think I had like 40 on staff at the time. And I'm like, I don't believe in transformational. And they're like, what? And I'm like, you either born with it or you don't. I hire people that are already awesome. I'm not training anybody. And they're like, they all looked at me like I was crazy. Like, and now I'm embarrassed, like, of myself 12 years ago, that I actually thought that all of us, including myself, don't constantly need assistance, leveling up, support. All of us need it. And as things change, we need new training, and we need new assistance, and we need new systems. So with this delegation thing, isn't Robby's now created a system and he can go lay on a beach in Aruba. Now you get to truly be a leader, which means next year maybe refining the systems further.
Right. Yeah. What's your next step, Robby? What's your now that this is happening, have your goals changed? Like, has your perception changed?
They've gotten real clear now, obviously. And I really hope anyone listening, I used to think to myself, the only thing that's going to get me to change is trauma, because I'm so comfortable. And I really hope that's not what it takes for you. I liked your idea, Tyler, of like just lying and pretending like you got in an accident, and then you're like, you have to act. But in the end of the day, through all this, right now we have a folder that's like a concert folder. The next concert that happens, guess what we're doing? Calvin's running that folder, and everyone else is going to do it. I'm not going to be there. I think there's a bit of transactional leadership when you're training at the beginning before you just, because I have teachers coming in who are experienced coaches, and I'm telling them, like, I run my programs, I've stolen everything, by the way, guys, from Los Rios. So I run my band program very similar. I have a couple tweaks. We just had our first big meeting last night. I ran it from Zoom, but
Awesome.
Yeah. Congrats.
So thanks. So, I have teachers who have been teaching, and I have to deprogram them. I'm like, guys, this is not 5 40-year-olds in a room where you spend 45 minutes talking about a cool thing Les Paul did in 1968. Like, we have 10 minutes per song, and they're working on the enrichment with their teachers. They're going to be better musicians. This is why we have great shows. Oh, wait, let me finish the show thing, because we got tangented. If you don't mind.
Go ahead. Go back.
So people know, I cried with all these emotions. I'm going to miss him. I'm proud of myself. I don't know what it feels like to be proud of myself. But after that long cry to my mother, talk to her all the time, I slept, woke up. People are, I got calls, FaceTimes, people like, this was the best show ever. 250 people showed up. We grossed $2,000 from the venue. We had expenses, but we still made money off it. And of course I had to record, live video, not live, but I recorded video messages of me in the hospital, because I am a narcissist at some level. But people liked it because they got the, hey guys.
Wait. Did they play it on like a screen at the venue?
They projected it
with audio?
Oh yeah. I took these videos, one take. I had them shower me and comb my hair. Hey guys, it's Robby. I'm here from the hospital, and I just want to thank everyone. Thank Herman's, for staying in business. And it was like just a little like heartfelt, all blemishes message. And I'm sure some people thought it was redundant, but most people know me, and I think that it added a little bit of authenticity. But but I woke up at 9:30. By 10, I'm getting calls. Students, this was the best thing ever. The bands were tighter than ever, and the sound was better, and we had 250 people. The most we ever had was 180. So by every metric, it was the best show. And Tyler, I was so happy. I was like, this is the best compliment, because I don't need to be there, and I was getting in the way, and this just proof of concept. And
And
so I
you
spent
said
time-
something important. I think a lot of people will relate to is that many of us in small businesses, I'm sorry, but if you're a small business owner and you're listening to this, you're obviously a genius. So, but I think small business owners are like, really energetic folks typically. Like, so we're like, and like you said, you're winging it. So the fact that you forced yourself to sit down and write it down, so you weren't just going to delegate and say, hey, you got it, I'm off the clock. You took the time to actually create the systems and the planning. How much moving forward do you think that you'll implement that part too? Because I think that probably contributed quite a bit to the success of the night.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I planned to. When I had the debriefing, when I couldn't think of anything to say, I'm like, guys, and I'm trying not to micromanage you. I know I do that. And Calvin goes, Robby, you just literally told us to turn the gain to 2 and the volume to 2.5 on one guitar pedal during a debriefing. So I still clearly, so I wrote them stupidly detailed, like nauseating systems, and still managed to talk about tweaking one guitar pedal during the deep. But point being is I joke about it with them. I'm tryrying, but I mean,
you normally would have had lived, right? You normally would have just done it on the fly.
I would have done that. I would have walked around with my headset.
Yep.
I had a headset. I'd MC. I'd tweak pedals. I'd talk to the sound guy. I'd slap customers on the back. I'd direct point. Like, I just did it because I've been doing it so long. But this is the way it's going to go in the future because I'd rather do that. It's better. It worked better. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Now we just take this. We change the dates. We adapt it. So we're talking about, it took me hours, but now it's going to be like 2 hours before the next show. We go through the documents and update them. And I already know what people are doing, what roles, and Calvin can help make sure that happens. Calvin's like the most amazing dude ever. He's 26. He's a drum instructor. He's going to be my GM, and I love that guy.
So real quick, for the people that are listening, when did you start Musical Life Denver? Let's get the audience kind of a little bit of a timeline. We're not going to go too far back, but just what's the start date of Musical Life Denver?
2016, I got a building and I stole a business model of I'm going to rent out space to other teachers and we're all going to do our own thing because I got my own students. Then no teachers ever came. Interestingly enough, it was through Facebook groups, but I found Fonz, then I found Teacher Zone, and it was like, delegate, here's all these ideas I've never heard. Be a boss, hire people, get employees. Right. That was the big topic.
So that was 2016. Now we're at 2021, and we already heard the story here. And you didn't consider yourself a good boss or a leader, like quote unquote. That's what you just said. You failed the boss test with like a 0%.
Yeah, it couldn't have been worse.
Maybe with this new success, and I know I'm speaking rhetorically here, but do you think, and I'm not speaking to narcissism for you either, this is supposed to be inspiring. Do you think that you might have more to offer yourself and your community than you had before now? Do you think that there's something bigger out there for you because of this recent transition? Do you think that maybe you weren't doing your best work while you were grinding and building?
When I'm trying to do everything in 3 hours of admin and coaching, I told them I couldn't be the best coach. I was slacking. Now we have coaches are just coaching. We have systems. We have weekly practice reports we're going to, be doing. But the main thing is I can grow the school. That means all my teachers have more hours. They're happier. All my teachers have more direction and free time because I'm not, 3 hours, 6 hours a day are gone. I can help the coaches, be there to support them. I can be there for the needs of people, and I could just make more sales calls, advertise more. I can plan more for the future. So the plan, you asked, what's the plan moving forward? Well, I have 24 months left on my lease. My plan is to grow the school in the structure we have, max out this place, get a new spot. I don't have, put together, hopefully find some investors, buy a building in 2 years from now and be having 350 students running, 800 a year revenue and being able to pay myself well, have my general manager and have a couple assistants and 8 teachers and everyone's happy. I want to raise my teacher pay. I want to make sure I'm paying my teachers more than any other school in town. That's important to me. And
So what it sounds like is that it's really opened your vision, and you reminded me of a metaphor that a success coach gave me years ago about, because I was struggling with planning and I was struggling with systems, and I was like, oh, I like the freedom of being creative. I like doing stuff on the fly, man. I don't really want to do all these systems and stuff. And Clement Pepe, hey Clement, he's a great success coach, but he goes, Chris, let me explain something. He goes, you're on the tallest building in Chicago. It's a really windy day, right? And there's no guardrails at the top of the building. You're on the roof, and it's really windy. What are you going to do? You're going to lay down probably in the center of the roof, right? And so your whole perspective is from that position, laying on the roof, because you're scared and you don't want to get blown off the roof, right? That's not having systems. It's like, now imagine that you planned for the winds and you planned to be on the roof, and you actually built a really thick plexi that's like a 4.5 foot high plexi around the entire perimeter of the roof. He's like, now you can actually walk the roof. You can get up on the plexi, you can hang over. And so your entire vision, everything you see is different. And also you're relaxed. Whereas before you're freaked out, right? And so I thought that was a really cool way of kind of thinking about the fact of you taking the time to have the systems that now your vision, it sounds like, is really opening up. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm actually now starting to have this possibility of super growth, of affecting even more lives, of going deeper with my staff, of, imagine this, paying them more because we're having more success. Like, right. That's amazing to me. So I'm so proud of you for pushing yourself through this moment and having that. So what advice would you give yourself if you go back even 6 months?
Okay. Hard to say. I was going to say something about the motorcycle, but like I was at the freak accident. I wasn't going fast. I was wearing a helmet. Like I did everything, so I would still ride my motorcycle. I mean, shit happens sometimes. Like,
no, you got to get back on the horse. You cannot.
9/11 happened. It's not like people who went into the World Trade Center to change the world. Like, oh, maybe I would have got whatever. I can't do anything about that. I would have told myself that, life's going to happen, and the sooner I do the systems, and maybe if I had put off a couple sales calls, or I had put off a couple like things and had like maybe like kind of a slack week in the office, where even if I pissed off a couple customers and teachers for 1 week, to sit down with somebody else, that's huge. Finding someone, whether they're employee, I have an accountability person I pay who's like a per day partner. I have coaches, but find someone who will sit down with you. You make a meeting and you say, today we're going to write down everything I do in a band class. And just force yourself, because I thought I had no time. I have to get these Trello cards done. We have to onboard. I have to get this trial lesson. Like, oops, so fucking what? What if I would have pissed off a couple parents and a couple teachers for 1 or 2 weeks, slightly, to be able to get the stuff done ahead of time? Then if the crash happened, I wouldn't have had to do this. I could have totally just spent my time recovering, or I could have spent my time, I was like 30 calls behind, like, so calling people, how many people like called and then called another school, how many more students could I have had if I had, been able to field that. So, I mean, just your brain's going to tell you I have to, and you tell your brain, screw off. What's the worst? I'm going to piss some people off. I'm going to slack for 1 week, but I'm not going to slack doing nothing. I'm going to slack on the fires of the day, and I'll be able to go back and talk to everyone later and apologize, and it will be fine because I'm a good person and they're good people.
So worst case is you got a couple weeks downtime. Your business might dip a little, but
I might lose
the reaction, the result is increased enhancement to everything, including business growth.
I mean, because I've had these on my agenda for 2 years now. Scale up, get systems. I don't have to do everything, delegate. But I, for 2 years straight, was rationalized. And it's not like I was sweeping the halls. Like I wasn't doing nothing. Right. But I rationalized, I got to do this. I tried getting an administrator. It didn't work. I got to stay lean. Like, I got time in the day. I can do these cards. Why lose an extra couple hundred a month
Because
when my margins are so thin?
Well, and in the lesson business, the biggest challenge that we all face, I believe, is the operational challenge. It's like we all want to be really busy and change lives, but as soon as that starts happening, now you've got all these people, and now you've got all these circumstances and scheduling and drama and all these things going on that takes your attention. It isn't. Let's not pretend like it's just this simple thing. I mean, gosh, you built it a wonderful school, before the accident. This just helped you sort of level up and wake up to the reality of, like Covey calls it, sharpening the saw. It's like, okay,
Yep.
you sharpen the saw before you go to cut. You don't wait to build the boat, right before the flood. You're working on it and making it better and testing it and making sure it's buoyant and all this kind of stuff that it can't happen without planning. It can't happen without delegation. It's so important that we all get out of our own way and spend time sharpening our saw. Ty.
Robby, I got to ask you, how are you feeling? Are you still feeling okay to go a couple more minutes? Are you getting tired? How you feeling?
No, I'm fine, man. I mean, I'm grateful to be, talking to you guys, and of course, it's always fun being on a podcast. It feels cool.
Well, you know what? You are cool, man, and everybody listening to this.
This is gonna be. I mean, this is good for everybody. Everybody loves good stories.
Yes.
They love success. They love. I mean, every movie and show we ever watch, there's that. If you're watching a 10-show season, episode 7 is always the pits. It's like, oh no, this is depressing. They'll never get out of this, and then they do. And so, like, that part of this, even though it was intense for you, this is a life lesson story for many people. Whoever listens to this, like, this is a win-win for everyone at your expense. And I think the moral of the story is, like Chris said, sharpen the saw before you have to test out your boat, build the boat.
Right. Yeah.
Don't be afraid for change. Like a lot of people, and we learn how to sort our customers, because customers come to Teacher Zone and they're not ready. And we shouldn't be onboarding them because their mindset's not even freaking there. And then they're 3 months later, they might not even want to do it anymore because we tried to make them fit, but they're not ready because they don't understand what it means yet. So there's a lot of things we can do to really harness the energy of what your story's about. So the main thing I heard was open your mind, start sooner than later, and get a mentor, get an accountability partner, get systems. Sooner.
Yep. Schedule meetings with people and say, I'm going to do this, and then show up, and then also put off to put on. That's what I would have told myself. The biggest, tell yourself in your head, I'm putting off sales calls. I'm putting off getting back to this person. I'm putting off filling out this registration. It's going to be a day late and $1 short, but not because I'm lazy, because I need to get these fucking, Again, had I had these going into this, I would have maybe 10 more students because, something else would have been fit. I mean, right now I'm thinking about.
No, it's the biggest challenge of being an entrepreneur, man, especially in the lesson business. There's always a fire. There's always something. Have you guys heard of the Pomodoro? It's basically the 20-minute timer. And the Pomodoro timers, I think it means tomato in Italian, right? So it's like an Italian timer, but it's a 20-minute cooking timer. And the concept is that block 20-minute, because we can all focus for 20 minutes, hopefully, but it's much easier to focus, let's put it that way, for 20 minutes than it is to say, oh, I'm going to block 3 hours. No, hold on. Start with 20 minutes. And then if you want to go another 20, cool. So if you Google it, there's all sorts of, it's a kind of a movement out there, the Pomodoro movement, and there's Pomodoro timers, and you can even just tell Siri or your timer on your phone to be a 20-minute deal. But I highly suggest, if you're listening to this and you're struggling with time management, chunk it down. I think it was Henry Ford or someone, they asked him why they were so successful. And he's like, because I could focus for hours on end and all of my peers can't focus for more than 5 minutes. That's the one distinction that he had for his success. I think it was Ford.
Yeah, shiny object syndrome is what Chris and I have started to be more diligent and not be so susceptible to is shiny new systems, shiny new, ooh, look at that, look at this, look at that. Because
Yeah, who's done that?
we're
Where it's
trying
like, I'm going to make a new system, and you spend 3 hours working on it, and then you have a staff meeting, and it doesn't get implemented, and you're like, well, that never happened.
That's right.
That's why we're
Right.
not going to smart sheets this time. I had this big thought. I'm like, am I going to use smart sheets like Los Rios? And actually, Chris, you're like, decide if it's going to be something you're going to follow through or not. I said, not this time. And we have another system I think will work for us on a smaller scale, but it's something we can do, and it's going to be implemented. So
Love
it will get tried.
So
It's
smart,
not
man. That is so smart, Robbie, because the fact that you're saying what can we own is part. It's so easy to like pay lip service to it and be like, oh, we're going to do all these systems, and then you don't do anything about it. Like, it's not worth it. You're better off having just a couple systems, and then over time,
credibility too, Chris. If
Yeah.
you say a bunch of stuff and nothing ever happens, your
Right.
staff hears you saying a bunch of stuff that never happens,
Or
and
worse,
that's what they can
worse,
do.
I've tried implementing things that make extra work for them in the name of better school at staff meetings, and it goes for 2 weeks, and then I don't follow up. And then they're like, well, fuck, this guy, every time he brings up a new thing, more work for us, it's not going to matter. I did that like 2 or 3 times with like these student drop cards at assessments. And so I just stopped, and I was like, all right, core business. But this is something that I used to do it and send teachers emails and spend hours making these emails after class for no reason. And so it's like, let's just make a template and have the instructor, while the thing's running, they're rehearsing a song, and he's taking notes on a template email, canned email, and he just sends it. So it's like a really
Great idea.
I love it.
implemented
That's a great
version of
idea.
what you guys do. But
Honestly,
it's
we might need to add that at Los Rios. Something a little like a Google Doc that's just easy to send for the red alert, for the red flag songs, not the
Yeah.
regular songs. Only the
Right.
ones out of 10 songs. There's the one that's just, what's wrong with that? Well, let me give you the notes. I work with these 2 kids on this, or whatever. That's a great idea.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
And by changing all the time, that's something that you keep saying that I think is so important. If you're listening to this and you're wanting to get, better and have more vision and be able to do more of the things you dreamed of, a lot of it is being not afraid to fail, because you're gonna fail. That's the process. The process is fail up. It's fail and go, okay, all right, tweak that.
Yeah, and
Fail,
sometimes
okay.
your staff don't understand the concept, so you have to do extreme ownership, the fundamentals and principles of extreme ownership, and lead them through the failure and be like, yep, totally, but what did we learn? And we know not to do that again. How about, what do you guys think if we move forward in this fashion from now on in this regard? And then they appreciate it that you asked them. They know you owned it, which makes them want to own stuff later, because they liked how it felt. They loved your leadership and they want to do it. So they start emulating you with their peers. And there's just, that's the fun part of failure, believe it or not. I know that's going to sound cliche to some people, but I know it's right.
Robbie, what are those Russian dolls that nested? I don't know what they're
Petrushka dolls.
What are they called?
I think they're called Petrushka or something like that.
Petrushka, that's right. Petrushka dolls. You made me think of that as leadership, because it's like a million Petrushka dolls, because you basically behave in a way that you want those around you to mirror, and then they lead, then they lead. It goes all the way down. We even see it at our school with our student leaders. We have students actually volunteering. Usually we have about 10 a season, and they actually are mirroring their director leaders, who are mirroring the school leaders, who are mirroring Tyler and I, and we're mirroring other folks. Like, it keeps going on forever, right? It's like leadership is something that is an ongoing process that we're all engaged in, and the more work we put in, then the better the echo,
So, hey, you know what? I think we're going to start to close this up, but Robbie, we want to let you know that we're here. This episode was to celebrate your victory during some really adverse times. And so, every now and then an entrepreneur needs that. And it doesn't happen all the time. We feel lonely sometimes, and our wives think we're insane. And so does everyone else. And to everybody who's listening, none of that, as long as you're doing your best and you're present with people, the victories, the failures, it's all perception. It's all how we look at it. But today we're celebrating you, Robby. So I don't know if you've had people celebrating you in a while, but we are. This is for you.
Thank
So
you
thank
so
you for
much.
thank you for coming on and sharing the story of getting through something that could have been impossible and may have been impossible for many other people that didn't choose to step up and lead. They would have just, that would have been, I don't even know. I don't know them because I don't surround myself with people whose their doors are closing left and right. I believe we are who we hang out with. So I don't know. I know through COVID, we know some people that lost their businesses and et cetera, or chose to leave or whatever. But I know for a fact that people, if those circumstances had hit them, that would have been the end of their business. Period.
Well, the word responsibility is simply the ability to respond, and you took responsibility for this. You actually showed all of us what it's like to actually lead in grace. To actually respond with like, you know what, we're doing this. I'm doing it.
You don't have to go full fear. Fear is the first reaction, of course, but then you know what? You went right into love and hope and execution. And we're better people for hearing your story and watching you go through it. This is not a dreamscape. This is not fiction. This included staff. This included people's lives. They pay their rent. This included kids that had been working so hard and all of that. And you know what? The funny part is your little hospital videos during the show might have given them a little bit of perception about it, but they didn't really feel anything. They went right through like nothing happened. So we're going to tell you, we feel you right now. And if they didn't, we do. And anybody who's listening to this podcast, you've got a guy on here named Robby at Musical Life Denver Music School who has 2 broken arms and a bunch of other things we can't talk about on the podcast, or it will have to be explicit besides his F bombs we have to edit out. But he's here, and it was real. And it was a real problem, multiple problems, and they were solved. And he made it out pretty much AA plus. I mean, on the business scale of delegation. Like, come on, your boss test you took doesn't reflect the real test, like at all. Like seriously, you might want to retake that test.
We're actually gonna anoint you an honorary boss leadership degree. You won.
Yeah. We'll get our designers to put a little certificate together or something. But Robby, thank you so much for coming on while you're in bed with broken arms. And those of you listening, if you go to our YouTube channel, you can see him if you want and see his casts and get the real feel.
And please be inspired. That's one of the reasons that Robby wanted to do this, is he wanted you guys to be inspired, because some days it feels like there's no way you can get out of the stress and the long days. And Robby's here to tell you that don't wait for a traumatic moment. Just today, take a step. Just do one thing.
Yep. And everybody listening, please, this podcast is brought to you by teacherzone.com. So go, if you don't know who we are or what we do, go there. And if you go to teacherzone.com/chaos, there's a free ebook there as well. The 5 stages of growth in your business from chaos to culture. That is free for you. Go sign up for that. And then again, Robby, we love you and are so excited for you to get out of this bed and start to go do more. And we'll have to check in with you in a few quarters and see where you've gone after this, because we do need another podcast. I would say, I don't want to make it too soon. We'll know when. We're not going to claim a date, but Robby, just know that you're invited again, and a year from now. And we want to check in to see how your business has grown from after these big pivots you made. How about that? Can we have you on again in the future?
I would love to. Thank you guys so much for the celebration, and you guys just made my day.
Awesome. Well, you know what? That's supposed to help you heal. So if anything, you know what? Maybe you'll start feeling better. Get out of there a couple days earlier, and let the staff watch the podcast once we post it, so they feel good about letting you go, and they'll believe you. But again, everybody out in the audience, and Chris Bates, thanks for being here and being the awesome co-host you are. We'll see you on. Go ahead.
Well, but just before you end, Tyler, I just wanted to say one last thing, Robbie. Your authenticity and your willingness to be vulnerable is one of the aspects we often all forget about because we're trying to, white knuckle and feel strong. And so we appreciate you, man. Thanks for being honest because we all need that. We need to realize that, we're not alone. Life isn't easy. And bravo, man. So
Yeah, if you're not authentic, quit now. Quit or change. If you're not authentic, quit or change. Life's too short. So again, thanks for tuning in to the Teacher Zone with Chris and Tyler. We were here with Robby Schechter of Musical Life Denver, Chris Bates at teacherzone.com, and I am your co-host, Tyler Maroff. We will see you on the flip side. Sayonara.